in terms of cues that we've gotten from the US markets, a bit muted is what we're seeing. And look at the Asian markets, how they've opened up as well. A muted day of trade coming in for the Asian markets, most of them trading lower. Taiwan index is down almost 1.4 to 1.5%. Hang Seng is trading with cuts of almost 1% as well. Whether you look at it in terms of the Nikkei, that's the Japanese index, that's down 0.4%. ASX 200 is trading with cuts of around 0.1% as well. So keep an eye out on that. Even the Kospi, that's not managing to hold on to good gains in the trading session as well. Kospi too is trading quite muted. So overall, today the Asian market cues this morning are quite muted, and we have the Indian markets. What are we keeping an eye out on that? Nifty implied open, a 100-point downtick. So, gap down start is what we're watching out for. We had comments that came in from President Trump, and we'll take you through that through the later part of the show as well, in terms of the Fed chair as well. But nothing exciting in terms of cues for the Indian markets today. A 100-point downtick at least is what we're keeping an eye out on. But more in terms of details of how these overnight cues will impact our Indian markets, we have a team of research here to join us right now to set you up for trade. Important stocks to watch out for, important other cues as well. First up, let's go across to Gaurav, who's here to tell us the important market cues that we should keep an eye out on this morning. Good morning, Gaurav.
Well, good morning. If you look at market, yesterday we saw market actually rallied for the third consecutive day, and it closed above 25,400 mark. So even going ahead, as per the option chain data, it suggests that 25,500 is a key resistant level, and at the same time, on the downside, 25,300 can act as a near-term support, and that zone 25,200 to 25,300 is a key thing to watch out for. But other than that, on the sectoral basis, we saw Nifty Metals and Nifty Energy were actually top gainers for the second consecutive day, and on the flip side, Nifty FMCG, now it continued its decline. For the second day, it was down almost by 0.9%, and we saw some of the stocks in the FMCG actually declining. On the other hand, if you look at stock specific action, yesterday we saw Hindustan Copper, GMDC, GE Vernova, ABB India. These stocks were actually top gainers, gaining more than 5 to 6% in the intraday sale at intraday itself. Now, going ahead today, the key event to watch out for is the earnings, and we have got companies like Bajaj Auto, Bank of Baroda, Jindal Steel, Dr. Lal PathLab and Nestle who will report their earnings along with the other companies. India-Arab foreign ministers meeting, that will also begin today. Remember, this is a two-day meeting, and given that geopolitical events are happening at such pace, this is a key thing to watch out for. Other than that, from the macro indicators point of view, we have got forex reserves data which will be coming in today. Fiscal deficit is something that we will be seeing for India, and for the banking segment, the entire system level deposit and loan growth data is something that we will be closely tracking on. Lastly, from the US market, let's also not forget about the PPI data that we'll be getting from there. Remember, if you look at the cues and the global markets, we are seeing some kind of weakness, so it can happen that the Nifty can open with a gap down. But let's see and let's hope for a positive end for Nifty today.
Okay, we'll watch out for that, Gaurav. But let's go across to Sonal now, who's here to tell us which are the important stocks to watch out for in the trading session. Good morning, Sonal.
Good morning, Winnie. It's a long list, so let me take you through that quickly. For ITC, largely in set, but cigarette volume growth came in higher at 6.5%. But paper, agri-business growth was below expectations. But of course, all eyes will be on the excise duty hike from Feb 1st and any pricing action thereafter. For Swiggy, losses widened on a YY basis, but guidance maintained across parameters, so that stock remains on our radar. Dixon Tech, where the numbers are largely in line with estimates, Vivo PN3 approval is expected soon, and margins across business verticals were up anywhere between 10 to 130 basis points on a YY basis. For Tata Motors CV, the commercial vehicle segment, it was 10th straight quarter of double-digit margins for the business, and they say that demand is expected to strengthen further in quarter 4. For Vedanta, aluminium business led the earnings beat, and they say demerger process is expected to be completed by May 2026. Blue Star, it was a drag. Core business dragged, resulting in earnings miss this time. UCP revenue dropped 1% versus an expectation of 5% growth. For Dabur, it was largely in line with estimates. Domestic volume growth came in at 3% versus an expectation of 4 to 5%. Companies said that rural demand continued to outperform the urban demand for 8th consecutive quarter. For Colgate, it was an expected miss this time around. Revenues were up just 2%, EBITDA declined 5%, and profits were absolutely flat on a YY basis. For Voltas, revenues fell by 1% versus an expectation of a 2% growth. So that was a miss. However, UCP revenue growth of 9% was positive. Margins in that segment fell because of negative operating leverage and deep discounting as per management commentary. Watch out for Aurobindo Pharma as well, non-earnings related news, because DGFT has now imposed minimum import price or MIP for Pen-G, 6-APA and amoxicillin. And remember, Auro is across the value chain in these three drugs. In fact, it is the only company with a Pen-G plant, and analysts now expect that this could add substantially to the EBITDA, around 600 to 700 crore rupees in FY27. So some positive news for Aurobindo Pharma.
Okay, Sonal, thank you so much for that. But in the final leg of update, let's go across to Mangalam, who's here to tell us the important cues in the world of F&O this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So there was a solid recovery from lows that we saw in yesterday's session from both the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank. In fact, it was led by the Nifty Bank. The mid-cap index too ended mildly in the green. We've been talking about this range of 25,150 to 25,450. And guess what? Yesterday, the market tested both ends of that range. The day's low was 25,159. The day's high, 25,458. Market breadth, however, would have left bulls wanting a little more, because we had about 1,800 stocks which declined for about 1,200 which gained. The FII selling came back after a purchase of 400 crores. There was a selling of 400 crores yesterday, but nothing really to worry. It's a small amount. The other worrisome part, however, is the net selling by FIIs. 1,800 crore worth selling, where they added 11,800 short contracts. So in doing so, the FII longs are back down to 12%, with shorts at around 88%. And the net contracts at minus 1.85 lakh are higher than what we started the series with itself. So that's something ahead of the budget we need to monitor. But on the other side, what the FIs have done is they've hedged their positions by selling more puts than calls, telling you that at lower level, there is support, even though the FIIs are net short on the index futures. So if at all there is a recovery, there will be massive, massive short covering that the street is working with. Where is the put writing visible? 25,400 and 25,200. All of that tells you between 25,150 to 25,250 is where support lies. But on the way up, 25,450 call writers are fairly active, telling you around 25,650 thereabouts, there could be some supply coming in. Were we to break that, then there is some punt buying ahead of the budget on the 26,000 call as well. The Nifty is fair and square above the 200-day moving average, so that's an important support on the way down. But on the way up, we need to cross the 50 and the 20-day moving averages. The two stocks I'll be tracking today, both Swiggy and Eternal. Swiggy reports its numbers for the first time after being included in F&O. And will its commentary have an impact on Eternal, which has seen an up move over the last couple of trading sessions after a big down move, is something that we'll be tracking very, very closely.
Okay, Mangalam, thank you so much for that. Important levels to keep an eye out on, and important couple of stocks that Mangalam mentioned as well.